Well, that's a huge sign of improvement, because it means that you're seeing more of what's happening. I mean, if things are going too fast, you can't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in a lot of sports, like in baseball. You might have a champion batter, and he says, yeah, you know, when I'm on it, you know, as soon as the pitch comes out of his hand, I can see the seams rotating on the ball. You know, the ball's moving at 90 miles an hour. And, you know, Sonny Umpad used to say that he wasn't teaching technique to his students, he was teaching them how to see. And so when that time perception slows down, that time distortion,
Mm-hmm.
that's a real important factor. I mean, that's when you are in the flow. And, you know, you see what's happening, there's a sense of anticipation. Like I said, there's that radar, you're tracking what's happening, you know, in real time. If you couldn't see that, how would you defend yourself? When you first started asking the question, I was thinking, well, maybe I'm playing games with you. You know, you go fast, you go slow, you know, there's broken rhythm, broken timing. There's tricks to lull people into a certain rhythm, for instance, you know. If you control the timing, you can push slightly ahead of it to hit your opponent. You can fall behind the timing to catch the opponent. Styles like Sonny Umpad's blade work, there's a lot of like you flow in rhythm with the opponent, so when they come through on a strike, you know, you're cutting right behind. It's almost like the old idea of the in Chinese arts, the Gim versus the Dao. The Dao is, you know, big curved, you know, sword, and you could take like a whole bunch of raw recruit soldiers and teach them to use it, and you know, in 3 months they're ready to fight. The Gim maybe takes 10 years, long, straight, double-edged sword. A general who's trained his whole life would carry one of those. And with the Gim, the saying was, avoid the blue, bring back the red. In other words, don't clash steel to steel, but cut and bring back blood. And so when you fall behind on timing, you know, you get into, you know, cuts like that. Derobio is another system that tends to blend and flow in a way that you know, works well with that. So there's different things when it comes to, for instance, like maybe using hard blocks. And you'll notice in terms of timing, sometimes it's a unified timing, 1, 2. Other times maybe I start to, you know, alternate the piece. I go 1, 2. And then maybe I start to get into syncopating and I go 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's something I like to call confusion theory, which is the more variation you throw at someone, the more you make them think about it, the more they have to try to anticipate, and it slows their reflexes down. I mean, the mind actually delights in variation, like in music, slight variations in a rhythm or a hook for a piece of music that varies slightly over time. Captures the mind, it doesn't bore. What's happening here is we're kind of using that to keep the mind jumping around so that the opponent isn't formulating his own plans quite as readily. He's having to think about what you're doing, which is why I call arts like Eskrima, particularly with the sticks, chess on adrenaline, because it's so fast moving.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So then it's natural then at this point to just start seeing things slow down to some degree after practicing it.
It's natural if you're improving.
Okay.
Time. And there's actually like another side of that as well. So I went through the phase of, you know, learning to see everything in real time, and the idea was that your conscious mind is now operating on a level of just observing rather than acting. Mm-hmm. Your subconscious, having been trained and knowing the patterns and having reflexes, you know, the subconscious mind is saying, hey boss, get out of the way, I know how to do the job. And so the conscious mind is, well, this is part of how you see more accurately. Because the conscious mind doesn't have to think about the mechanics of the movement, it now has more resources available for comprehending the overall situation. It can operate on a level of strategy while the unconscious is running tactical.
No.
Now, for the longest time, it was like the more aware you are, the deeper and deeper into the technique you can see, until finally you see everything that's happening. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but then there's something that happened to me on the other side where the subconscious sort of said to the conscious mind, is like, you know what, I got the whole thing handled. You don't need to be here at all. And so it's like what John K. Wong, my late Tai Chi instructor, Sibok John Wong, would say, oh, my mind went out for a cup of coffee. It's like saying, just it left the house. Your awareness is no longer in the house. And as long as you're functioning on that unconscious level, is that necessarily a bad thing? There was a famous interview Bruce Lee did where he was asked, if someone attacked you, what would you do? He said, well, it depends. It would do something. What do you mean by it would do something? He says, well, if someone attacked me, something would happen, I would react to it, and then I'd go, oh, what was that? Because the conscious mind is always slower than the unconscious. It's like the conscious mind, it's been said, can be aware of 7 things in any given instant, plus or minus 2. So anywhere from 5 to 9 things can be part of your conscious attention. Whereas in that same split-second moment of awareness, your unconscious mind could be picking up thousands and thousands of details. It's like why people, say, if they took LSD and suddenly can see, footprints on concrete, which in normal vision they wouldn't. And all of a sudden, it's like they become aware of patterns of bugs flying in the air, tiny little insects that normally our filters block them out. Okay, so what we're really doing is we're playing with consciousness, we're playing with filters, and we really are training the unconscious control of our body to be able to do whatever it takes to defend itself. So things happen unexpectedly. A bee almost flies into your eye, and you just go, and you snap it away. You didn't see it. You weren't aware of what happened until the action had been completed. I actually had that experience once. This was after I came back from the Philippines. I was at a party in Berkeley. It was a beautiful day like today. We were at Dan Alexander's house. A bunch of musicians were there. Psychotic Pineapple, Rubinus, those guys. Berserkly Records, music crowd. And some of these guys had done a little martial arts. I know John Rubin at the time, I think, was training at the Inosanto Academy. Anyway, and I'm talking about the same stuff. There was a window open, maybe about 8 feet to my right. And as I'm talking about the unconscious mind in martial arts, literally a bumblebee flew straight in, literally in a beeline, straight at me. And I'm looking at the audience here. And as I'm talking, I went like this. And this fingernail hit the bee, and it was a line drive. The bee went shooting straight back out the window from the snap. I didn't know what had happened until I saw everybody's eyes go like that. And then, oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And as John Wong would say, thank you, Grandpa, for the opportunity to display, exactly that which I had been expounding upon.